Today is the day. This is part 2 of fixing up the Land Rover, getting it expedition ready. Today I'm going to try to fix the front end wheel wobble once and for all. So if you're not familiar with the front end wheel wobble saga, I put a little card up here, link up here. You can see those videos and see exactly what's happened. So in the past, I have replaced a bunch of parts that were defective, the upper and lower control arms and the wheel hub assembly. There was a CV joint that was bad. I replaced the entire axle. And then before the last shakedown trip up to Colorado, I did replace the outer tie rod, this part right here. So if you're not familiar with the tie rod, what it is the steering wheel has a column that comes down to this thing called a rack. And then there's 2 of these, one on the left and one on the right. And they connect to the wheels to steer the car. So this is what moves the tires left and right. And so on the outside, this is called the outer tie rod. You've got a joint right here, a ball joint that moves around. And then this is the inner tie rod, this part right here. And then there's another ball inside this socket, and that can move up and down. What happens is if these joints wear out, instead of being stiff and in control, they just wobble, and you'll get a front end wheel wobble. So when I replaced the outer tie rod, this part right here, I did that really quickly, sort of last minute. Didn't have the time to do the inner, and so I suspect that my inner tie rod, this part right here, on both sides, is bad. Let's get to the first part, which is just getting it off of there. And it is out. We need to loosen that. There you go. That looks pretty shot in there. This. All right, there it is. Now, let's take a look at this. Oh man, see how that just moves around pretty easily? On the new one, I can't move this at all. So, okay. The other thing we have to do before we take this apart is very important. We have to measure the distance so we can sort of get the alignment back to what it used to be. This is the old one. This is the new one. We've got these about the same length. We'll use calipers to measure how many threads here. We'll take this lock nut off, put it on here, and that'll get us in the ballpark close enough to drive the couple miles to the alignment center and get it set properly. Okay, some potential bad news. I'm seeing some crud in here, and that could be just some old fluid or lubricant or something from the old joint, or it might be metal shavings. If it's metal shavings, that is bad news. That looks like just grease from the old joint. I think that's what that is. There's nothing coming out of that. Yeah, I think that's just the grease deteriorating from the old joint.
This adapter has to come off the old one to fit on the new one. We're putting this bearing splitter on to this collar that sits on the tapered portion of the ball joint end in order to separate these 2 pieces. And to keep it from spinning, we're going to put it in this vise and hope we don't hurt ourselves. Ooh. Pop, there it is. That's all it takes.
I have to introduce you to somebody. This is Lee Garrett. He is a Land Rover maniac. And my brother's been telling me about him for years, maybe, at least. And so now he is hanging out with us in the shop, and he's going to show me all the stuff I've done wrong on my Land Rover. I finally get
to meet the brother of the legend, who is a legend himself. So
that's very nice. Yeah, it's so great. This is really fun. All right, Lee, let's do some stuff. Okay, we have everything assembled here. It has been measured. We have the lock nut on. We have the boot. All we have to do is screw this on here. So I'm going to just loose fit it. Yep. Come through there.
You got it.
There we go. Now we can tighten that guy up, and then we'll tighten this guy up. Well, it turns out Lee Garrett has some special tools that we can use to make sure everything is tight on those inner tie rods. He's done a lot of work on Rovers, and so he's going to get some parts. So how awesome is that we have a special guest that's going to show me how to do things properly. Time to do the other side. getting done really fast. Just a close visual inspection. Looks pretty much the same. The other difference is this collar didn't pop out, so we don't have to worry about that on this side. So well done for doing that.
Thank you for your luck.
So bad news, there is oil fluid coming out of this. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That's a ton.
It's all in this boot.
Oh my gosh. So we have a problem. There is a leak from the steering rack. That's a really important component. That's where the steering wheel column comes down and it controls the steering of the car. If that breaks down, well, you can die. We have a couple options. Option one is to do what you think can be done, which is...
I think we can just fill it up, keep an eye on it.
Option two is to try to repair the seal on that rack. Option three, and if I had unlimited funds, this is what I would do, and that is to replace the entire rack. It's just a matter of about $1,000 for that rack, and then we'd be responsible for labor. I don't happen to have $1,000 right now. So we're going to see what Lee says, because Lee is a Land Rover specialist. He knows these things inside and out.
Yeah, there is a bushing on the actual rack that supports the rod that you're
Oh, so it's like a
attaching the
thing
tie
that
rod
goes through
to.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
And there's a seal around that is a high pressure seal that if it becomes compromised due to the bushing wearing out, allowing the rack itself to move up and down. So you're at the very early stages of that then.
Okay, my
And
question is the rack serviceable, or do you have to replace the whole thing?
most people will replace the whole thing. If it's a small enough leak, that could have been over the course of 80,000+ miles, which just is a very low level leak. An accumulation wasn't escaping the boot, which indicates that it hadn't been leaking much.
Going to get some lunch with Lee because we've decided a few things. The first thing is probably we do not need to replace the steering rack, but what we do need to do is just to check to see if there's just a little bit of a leak called weeping, or if it's major. Lee asked me how old my axle on the passenger side is, and it is old. It is probably an original axle. So we are going to do an extra little job today, which we didn't plan on doing, and that is adding a new axle to the passenger side. The time has come for us to test to see how large this leak is, and so I'm going to hand this off to my brother Manon. He's going to film this. I'm going to hop in the car, start it up, move it left and right, the steering wheel, and then we'll see how much comes out, if anything. And then we'll know if this is a big problem or just an annoyance for a little bit. Go clean towel. So I'm gonna wrap it around.
I mean, we've got a very small amount.
Is that shaft scored that's coming out, you know, on the tie rod end?
I don't think it's scored at all.
Do you feel any kind of irregularities,
No.
polished places, or any kind of scoring?
Yeah, it feels brand new to me.
That thing is nice.
Well, there you
Okay,
go.
here's our decision. We are going to leave it in there and put the new tie rods on, and we'll just check it again in a few months.
That's a good idea.
This is a passenger side axle. What's the long axle? Why do I have this in my hand? Because, where are you, Lee? Come on over. When Lee was looking at this, he asked me, is that the original axle? I said yes. And he said, it's probably a good idea to go ahead and replace this. And you had one in your shop. And so I bought this from him. So we're gonna put that in, and that's just gonna give a little bit more assurance when I'm off on the sand and all that kind of stuff. So we're gonna get to that, and then we'll put the tie rod on, and then we'll do the alignment, and then we should have everything perfect. So to get the axle out, we've got to clear some room, which means taking the upper control arm. We're gonna disconnect it here. Hopefully that'll let us pull this out this way and clear a path. Okay, we have done a bunch of stuff, and are you ready to pull the axle out?
Yes. Quick recap. Loosen the sway bar upper mount on both sides so that we could make it turn so we have clearance. Pull it out. Axle came right out. Ooh, it's ugly.
That axle. Okay, good news. The old axle is out. It wasn't too difficult. We did have to bang with a pry bar just a little bit, not too much, and it just popped right out. Manon, my brother Manon here, did most of that stuff. So I think he should deserve the honors of putting in the new axle, which means I don't want to do it. And I believe that's it. There we go. Spline lined up. Okay. Yep. Yeah. Ha ha ha.
Well, it's not as bad as I anticipated.
Finally, we got a new axle in. That's a bonus. Now we're putting in the passenger side tie rod on the boot. So the big scare, I think, is over. Now we can just go back to what we were doing before. We're headed to the auto shop for the all-wheel alignment. Let me refresh your memory. Upper and lower control arms replaced. The wheel hub assemblies on both sides replaced. CV joints, axles on both sides replaced. The inner and outer tie rods on both sides replaced. I mean, the entire front end pretty much has been replaced to solve this wheel wobble issue. The only thing that's left really is the steering rack. And so let's find out if all that hard work has paid off or if there's one more thing to replace. We are headed back to the alignment center and the news is not good. Couple of things. Number one, the inner tie rod that I ordered, the part I ordered for the passenger side, it's the wrong part. It's too long, and so they cannot align the car today. They also found that the ball joint on the lower control arm on the driver's side is bad. It has to be replaced. Lucky for us, it's Thanksgiving week, so everything is more complicated. I was able to call FCP Euro. They had the parts luckily in stock. They've shipped them out. They're going to be here in 2 days. That's Wednesday. We have to work like crazy to get everything swapped out on Wednesday. Then we'll take Thanksgiving. Everything is shut down. And then Friday after Thanksgiving, we're going to take it back to the alignment center. And then hopefully, things will be all fixed then. So we still don't know. It's been over a week of work and we don't know if this is going to be fixed or not. We have taken out the what we thought was the wrong inner tie rod, and then we compared it to the what we know is the correct inner tie rod, and they are exactly the same length, which leads us to believe that it's the other side that has the wrong tie rod. So this is not giving me, it's not inspiring confidence. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna put in what we know is the correct tie rod on this side. We're gonna take the other tie rod out, we're gonna compare them, and if the other one is considerably shorter or longer, we'll know that the other side has the wrong tie rod, and then we'll put this one and on the other side because we know this one is a good tie rod. We just got it. Well, things just keep getting more and more interesting. So this is that tie rod we took off of the passenger side that we thought was wrong. Turned out it was the same size as the new one that we got. We took off the outer. So this is the one that came off of the driver's side. We measured these side by side without the outer tie rod on there. They're the same size. So all three of the new inner and outer tie rods, they're all the same size. So what I did was then I measured the new ones with the old tie rods that I took off, and they're all the same size as well. So all of the tie rods, all the old tie rods, all the new tie rods, all the same size. So why did the alignment shop tell us this was the wrong part? I don't know. That's something we're gonna have to figure out down the road. For now, we have this lower ball joint on the lower control arm to figure out, so we're gonna get to that next. This is a ball joint in the lower control arm. This is the new one. So what we need to do is we need to press out the old one. So we're going to use a press kit, and then we're going to press this one back in. And so this one should fix any issues that we have. I'm suspecting that this has been causing the wheel wobble all along. I just didn't know it. So we're going to do that, get it to the alignment shop, and hopefully that fixes everything up. One of the things you're absolutely going to have is one of these. This is a ball joint press kit, and we got this from the tool rental program, the loaner program from AutoZone. What this is going to allow you to do is use different adapters to press this in and out. And so what this is going to do is you have this kind of thing. Got it upside down right here like this. And then when you're pressing this in, you're pressing against this, not the ball joint. And then that goes through the control arm. And you're doing that with this big press right here. So you can't do this unless you have a press kit like this. So if you can't find one of these, just keep hunting around. AutoZone had it. O'Reilly usually has it. They just didn't have it in stock. But just check your local auto parts store. They're going to have one of these. Make sure you get the right size, because if you get the wrong size, you're going to destroy your ball joint, and that's what you don't want to do. So we're going to set this up and get to it. We removed the brake caliper, all the brake pads, everything that's off of there. Make sure that when you do that, there's two little screws. One's for the speed sensor, one's to hold the brake cable. You have to take those off so that nothing is tied up. You don't want to break your brake cables or speed sensor. Now we need to take the spindle and get it out of the way. Okay. It's an 8mm on the top and an 18 on the bottom. We're using some specialty tools to get this bolt out, and so this nut off. So this is a nice ratchet. It's got a hole through it, so we can put the Allen wrench through, hold the bolt still, and ratchet that. So let's see if we can get it this way. There it goes. Here. Okay. That's off of there. Okay, so this should allow us to get the... There we go. Get the axle out. Can you hold that? Like that? Yeah. That's not good. Ooh. All right, it drops. So when we yank on this, lots of torque, pushes this down into this open space. That should pop it out. We added this one to keep this little spacer square to put it through the hole. And this is a longer collar, so this just falls through there. And so let's keep going. Feels like it's going.
Yeah, it's getting easier.
Oh,
Nice.
it's coming out. Yeah, it is out. Out. Sweet. This is the bad. Oh my gosh. That is so loose. Look at that. That is so loose. Okay, let me compare that against the new one. New one. Can't even move it. Nope, can't even budge it. And this one, look at that with my pinky. I can move that around. Look at that. I can shake it. Well, just when we thought we were done, Mannon found a significant problem. So this lower control arm here came as one piece, and the dealer who I bought this car from had installed these. They're cheap. They're no good. And so this ball joint that was in here was a press fit, but it was probably never meant to be removed ever. And so this one, which is original equipment, when you put it in here, it just pops in and out. Nothing is holding it, which means that won't work. I have to get an entire new front control arm. If I get one side, I need to get the other. It just doesn't make sense to do one side at all. So this just became a significant project. It went from tie rods to lower control arms. What a pain in the butt. So the moral of the story is, if you get cheap parts, you get what you pay for. They wear out and then you can't repair them. So that's the dealer I worked with. They weren't so reputable, I guess. Did I mention I have a Patreon? I can help pay for all this stuff. Well, after everything is said and done, we're going to close this video here because I need to replace both lower control arms. So it looks like when I bought the car and the dealer put on new control arms, they put on the least expensive, lowest quality, cheapo control arms they could, and they've just worn out. And so there is the potential that the wheel wobble that I've been chasing this entire time has been caused by these low quality, lower control arms. And I just didn't even consider it because I thought they were new. And so that's very frustrating. I've ordered the parts. It's going to take about a week before they get here. And so we're going to close this video just so you can see all the work that's been done. I know it's a little frustrating that we didn't finish what we started out to do, but this video is getting a little bit long. And so in the next episode, you will see us replacing those control arms, getting the alignment, and hopefully getting the truck back on the road and then off to my next destination, which is Mexico and Guatemala and Belize. It's been a little bit frustrating, to tell you the truth, but I'm learning a lot of stuff, and I hope that if you're going through this, you're going to be learning some as well. So next video is going to be those lower control arms, and hopefully things will be fixed. So stay tuned and you'll see what happens. Thanks so much, and I will see you again next time.